I found it to be very straightforward and trustworthy.
George W. Bush had only been in office a few months when he swaggered out of a meeting with Vladimir Putin and made a declaration.
I was able to get a sense of his soul.
Almost immediately, then Senator Joe Biden tried to tamp down enthusiasm for the former KGB colonel.
I'd caution the administration against being excessively optimistic about Mr. Putin and his intentions.
Joe Biden is one of the American politicians who identified very early the type of man he was dealing with Vladimir Putin. He did not trust Putin.
10 years after his initial warnings about Putin, Biden, as vice president, met face-to-face with Putin in Moscow. Biden told a journalist that he said to Putin during that 2011 encounter, quote, "I'm looking into your eyes and I don't think you have a soul." Biden claimed Putin smiled and replied, quote, "We understand one another." Putin later said he didn't remember that exchange. And analysts say Biden hasn't always gotten the Putin portfolio exactly right.
During the Obama administration, Biden was given the charge for that, along with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Obama, his vice president and Secretary of State, famously tried to hit the reset button with Putin's regime. But by 2013, the relationship was so bad that the two men could barely look at each other during a meeting in Northern Ireland. Then came Russia's invasion of Crimea and its intervention in Syria during Obama's watch.
I think Obama had a much more difficult time with him, trying to maybe understand where he's coming from, but failing in the end.
Obama's successor thought he'd figured out Putin and that he could cut deals with him.
I think I'd get along very well with Vladimir Putin.
But many analysts believe Putin played Donald Trump from the start, especially when Trump took the word of Putin over his own intelligence agencies, which had concluded that Russia had meddled in the 2016 election.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
That was the kind of thing where Putin was able, I think in some ways, to very craftily control the room.
Putin has now been leading Russia across the administrations of 5 American presidents, a period when he's launched multiple invasions and allegedly overseen assassinations, hacking and meddling campaigns, always while working the angles toward the person in the Oval Office he's dealing with.
He does, at least reportedly, employ some of the tactics he learned when he was in the KGB in terms of assessing, trying to find weaknesses in those who he's talking to and trying to exploit them.
As for the future, the analysts we spoke to say they believe Vladimir Putin will still want to be seen as an equal with any U.S. president he deals with. They say they believe Putin wants to eventually negotiate directly only with President Biden to end the Ukraine war, something they don't believe Mr. Biden will ever go for. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.